1, 2, 3, 4.
Heyo, Degens on the block here. We've got Manny, Glenn, David, and I'm Todd. This is where we talk about blockchain, we talk about NFTs, we talk about technology, but we also talk about a few other random topics, and sometimes those topics are pretty fun. And so we have a list of topics today. Anyone want to put out a topic for our first conversation?
Well, I think, Glenn, weren't you going to head off this first one? Let's have you give it a shot.
So sometimes the topics...
Start.
Time. Oh, just so you know, we set a timer for 7 minutes so that we don't blather on. And here we go. Go for it.
All right. So sometimes the topics are personal as well as just interesting. So this first one is kind of about aging parents. And, you know, I got a call last week before we were going to do a podcast, and I got this call that my mom had been out at book club, and it took her 8 hours to get home.
Huh.
So she got lost, was only about 10 minutes away, and drove around for 8 hours trying to look for something familiar. So the idea is kind of like just to have a conversation about like when, you know, when is when? Like, because, you know, she's fully cognitive. Like, you talk to her and no issues.
Totally with it, right?
But it's just like, you know, a short-term memory or something. And I think the thing that bothered me the most was that it took, I think she said she stopped twice, you know, for directions. And I'm like, that's once every 4 hours. You know, like
The math doesn't add up.
Yeah, the math does not add up. I mean, that's fine. You know, you're lost an hour. You know, I'd give you an hour.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But
Is
you go like, is it what?
I was going to say, it's an out-of-town, right, situation.
Yeah. So she's down in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know, I'm here. My sister's down there. Thank goodness. So she kind of took the brunt of this. But you know, it's crazy because the cops knew where she was, right? So there's a different topic. But thank
Couldn't
goodness.
do anything, really.
They couldn't do anything. They knew where she was. They could type in her license plate, find her on the cameras throughout the city, and but they couldn't stop her. So she just drove around, and we just monitored where she was. Now, we didn't know if she was going to stop for directions in a bad neighborhood, you know, or what her mental capacity was at that point. You know, and even after the fact, she's like, you know, I wasn't scared. I was fine. I just didn't know where I was.
Yeah.
So she was lost, but she didn't stop. She didn't call. She didn't have her cell phone because she never takes her damn cell phone. We had no way to track her or contact her. So part of what I did going down there was to put guardrails on things, you know, so you can go and say, you know, and actually the app you were showing me, you know, you can probably put kind of a GPS coordinate
Tracking
around
device.
something.
Yeah.
Is that the Life 360 thing?
Life 360.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you can put a geofence somewhere, so if they go outside that, you would know.
Yeah.
Which would be kind of interesting. But
Like a warning.
we put we put an air tag on her keys, so we know anytime she's out, we can track it. And we installed her cell phone in her car, so she does not take that out, so it's always there.
Yeah.
She hopefully knows how to use that. I covered that a number of times. And there is an SOS button in the car. And I pushed that just to see what it did, you know. And we had a very understanding operator that got on and took us through it. But it just comes back to, you know, I know when I talk to, you know, my sister, she'll be like, take her keys away, you know, and I'm kind of, because I'm not there all the time, I'm not seeing the day-to-day kind of thing.
Sure.
You know, I'm still more a little like, you know, give her a chance, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
Yeah. And you're far away.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't happened. It's happened once before, but she was only missing for 3 hours. But she found her way home. But this time we were, it was 10:30 at night by the time she got pulled over. So it's just the idea of when, you know?
Yeah. But some of the things we talk about on this podcast, the technical things. I mean, thank goodness for some of that technology that she can still live like a relatively free life, but you can still track. I mean, there's downsides to tracking, and we can get into that later. But I mean, that's pretty.
Yeah, we have a
remarkable.
We have a blink camera, so we know who's coming to the house, when she leaves the house.
Yeah.
I've got a Echo Show, so I can drop in, and kind of look around the room.
Oh, that's great. Spy on mom.
Yeah.
But the problem is, right? I mean, no matter what device you're buying or what app you're putting in, it's the emotional journey, right?
Yeah.
That one goes through.
Absolutely.
Whether it's your sister who's close by or whether it's you who's farther out. But the thing is that you don't want to have any regrets either, right? So you're trying to get through all this roadblocks in front of you, and what is the best thing for your mother, right?
Right.
I think each decision is made, independently different. Like you're going to have different views than your sister or your brother or your friend or what. There's no easy time, but when all of a sudden there's a risk factor, you have to be able to waver that and say, when is it too much of a risk?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if she were physically unable to do something, then I could see.
Yeah.
But she's walking around.
And she probably values her independence to a certain degree.
More than anything else, I'm sure. That is the most, to me, the most crucial thing about this whole situation is, but when you ask when, it has everything to do with their capabilities to be as independent as possible. Because, once that changes, I mean, that changes a person significantly.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then if on top of that they're having, a mental decline that's imposed on them by a disease, I mean, then it's difficult to have those conversations kind of logically. So, the conversations then have to happen between, you and your sister or the rest of the siblings and such. But here's where the technology part, I do think it has the potential to allow them to have more independence for longer. Because of all the things that you were just talking about.
Agreed.
10 years ago, we couldn't do half of what you're talking about.
Well, they still had the necklace. Like if you fell down and you push the button, right?
I've fallen and I can't get up.
I did want to say it.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Okay, well, they're definitely getting kudos here from you guys, right? But that was great technology, and it looks like we're running out of time. But technology definitely plays a great part into their independence.
I think, to be honest, a lot of the stuff that we use with our kids to kind of monitor and keep track of them, this is going to have to apply to the parents. That's why the Life 360, I think, is perfect for them. Just, hey, know it's there. It's a security blanket for me and for you, even if you don't want it. Yeah. That's okay.
I think some of the technology is degrading our minds, too, because, like, I can't remember I don't know my kids' phone numbers. I can tell you what Bobby Jordan's phone number was, who was my best friend on the block. I can still tell you his number.
933-2363.
Yeah.
I'm going to stand up here for real quick for the people that make that kind of stuff. That's user error is what that is.
545-6770.
Yeah, but I haven't dialed her number ever.
Well, that's on you. Not
the
on
only
the company
reason I
that
know
makes
it
you the shortcut.
is because it's her Caribou, perks number.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if I go, I have to use that. But otherwise, I have no idea.
You're passing the buck.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the idea that you use this technology instead of your mind. Right. I mean,
well, if you're doing it that way, I agree with you.
Back in the day, I mean, Heidi would know the phone numbers to Dayton's electronics department, the shoe. She knew like every number by heart.
Right.
No way.
Well, now we don't even have to think for ourselves.
I just to kind of finish up with it, it's in the same line, but I think like it's interesting to me how you and your sister differ. Like there may be some family dynamics going forward. Like how do you deal with that? Because you probably have different views of how your mom can manage. And hearkening back to one of our previous episodes where we had Emily guest, Emily McNamara on. Her dad unfortunately developed Alzheimer's, and like she had to see it so close. Like if you're if your sister sees it closer than you, like how does that affect your relationship? It's interesting.
And it's good in that I have complete confidence that she's acting, and we're both acting in the best interest.
Yeah.
And I trust her. So it's hard, but I have to. We have to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Good and bad and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a freaky situation.
Yeah, I mean, one of the
Slippery
reasons
slope.
I brought it
Slippery
up is because when my grandma was kind of towards the end of her life, my mom's siblings were, it caused a family dynamic, and it's just an interesting thing. It's things that we're probably going to have to be all of us dealing with going forward.
Yep, for sure. This probably won't be the last time we're talking about this type of topic.
Yeah.
So.
Happy times, huh?
Yes.
Well, it is what it is. But I'm glad you brought it up, and I'm glad your mom is okay. That's
no
that's
kidding.
the best part about that.
no
So.
kidding.
Put a plan in action, which sounds like you kind of already have that down, and so good luck with
Yeah.
that for sure.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks for the topic, Glenn. That was very interesting and
Kind of a tearjerker, but
yeah.
we'll get through that.
yeah.
Hey, we'll be right back. Join us for our next topic on Degens on the Block.
Ready?
1, 2, 3, 14.
Hey guys, welcome back to Degens on the Block, where we talk crypto, NFTs, and a whole lot more. Sometimes we actually just kind of put out different topics that people like to hear about and are popular, and kind of figure out whose opinion is whose. So we got Todd Geisler to my
Hello.
left. We got
Heyo.
Glenn over here.
Nope.
And Manuel right across from us. So how about, what do you guys want to talk about?
Are we going with gun control?
I thought that was your topic.
Well, it is.
Done.
I just wanted to, make sure that we're going with the gun control.
It's
Yeah.
a sensitive topic.
It really is.
And it's a current one.
Weren't we trying to guess at
very
one
current.
point whose topic was what?
We were, yeah.
Yeah,
I think we should bring that back.
That might have to be a big thing.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's the
gun
topic,
control.
right?
Yeah, no,
Yep.
gun control it is.
Well, let me start out by saying I'm
Start
coming
the timer.
from
There we go.
living in Spain where nobody had guns.
Sure.
If any type of the only person you ever heard of having a gun was some dude who lives out in the middle of nowhere, and he's got a shotgun and he goes and hunts rabbits with.
Okay.
That's all we knew in Spain about guns.
Seems like overkill.
That's
Maybe
it.
a little
There-
bit.
there
Maybe a
was-
little bit.
There's nothing there, but moving here and after living in Texas, where a lot of people have guns there. It's interesting how I think I've kind of changed on my thoughts on it. I do think you have a right to have one, but I also know that if you're not mentally stable, you probably shouldn't have one.
Well, so you're saying it's the checks and balances.
Well, there has to be accountability, and in order to have accountability, you got to have some knowledge about who's doing what. If you want this privilege, sometimes you just have to, go jump through some hoops to have some privilege.
Well, and things can change.
drive a
also.
car,
things
you-
can change. I
Yeah.
mean, you can be mentally stable 1 year, and then 5 years later, or the next year,
Not so much.
Yeah.
and you already have that license, and you already have that AK-47, and you just kind of go nuts.
I think it's a privilege, is what it is, and it should be looked at as a privilege. And so, with any kind of other privilege, you gotta kind of manage it accordingly. I mean, I understand it being a right. That's the way it's been framed in the U.S. and I see a lot of people that this is it's your right to have one. It's like, okay, that's fine, but
Make it at least as hard to get a gun as to get a license.
Drink alcohol.
It's not just that. It'd be to me it's one of those things that should be like you should have to take a test, like a driving test.
Like every 8 years, go to the gun, shoot it, show them what's going on.
Know how to use. Can you show them that you know how to use it?
But even if you know how to use it, you mentally might not be all there. The problem with guns is I don't know what the exact percentage is, but they say it's like 2.5 guns per person in the U.S. And that's a lot of guns. A lot of guns. Do we need that many guns out there? Do we need AK-47s to protect us at our house? Probably not. Is it everyone's right to bear arms? Absolutely. So there's that fine line, which is right, which is wrong. Who's going to go nuts next? We don't know. Is there going to be? There's definitely going to be another shootout. There's no shootouts in any schools other than here in the United States.
Yeah.
So
like mass shootings.
these are the things. Yeah, these are the things that like my kids worry about. Like Abby, she worries. They're doing tornado drills. They're doing shooting drills. They're doing all these different drills to protect themselves because nowadays school is not very safe.
Yeah. Well, they say that there's 300 to 400 million privately owned firearms in the United States. So that's not including,
In Spain, we
law
didn't
enforcement.
We didn't have to worry
Those
about
are registered.
We didn't have to worry about guns in schools.
that's
we had to
exactly it.
worry about schools being blown up, and we had to worry about
Bombs,
walking around
things like
bombs
that.
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
you get under a desk for like a nuclear bomb.
Well,
I love those.
No, it's like, hey,
Where'd you grow up?
I remember, there was this going to this mall in downtown Madrid, and a few hours later, in the same parking lot that my mom and I parked in, a car bomb went off there.
Oh my
And a
goodness.
bunch of people were killed. I'm like, we're just a few hours away from that, So that's the kind of stuff I grew up with. So if you're talking to me about bombs, I got a lot to say about them. But with guns, we just didn't have them.
I think some of the underlying problems and why it's so bad in the U.S. is number one, we're desensitized. Number two, there's a lot of addressed mental health issues in the United States, and I think that's a big piece of it. And I don't know how you remedy that.
I don't know if you
The
can.
desensitization and mental health.
I don't know if you can. Again, it's like you would
Well,
have
you
to.
see, you ask those questions, but then how is it that other countries don't? How are they sorting things out? How is it that we're
way
the only
stricter
ones
gun control.
that
Way stricter.
And how about what's their social programs to address mental health issues? I don't know. Is it better overseas? Is it better in different countries? Is it?
You die if you. You have a gun. You don't want to get in trouble. You're going to be in jail, and it's the worst jail in the world, and you're never going to come out of there. That's what
They
that's
send you
what
to
it's like.
Jakarta or something,
You might.
or
You,
where?
you just. That's the thing. You don't know.
Yeah.
You're gone.
Yeah.
No, but way stricter gun control laws.
Well, part of my come from someplace else. I don't. I always thought as a kid, it's like I'd love to have a bazooka. That doesn't mean I should have the right to go buy one, which I think I can. By the way, I think I can in the U.S.
Probably
In Spain,
at a show. You could have.
I know. I
find
can
one
walk
on-
away with one
on eBay.
So to me, that's one of those things that's like 'cause that to me sounds like I'd love to have one of those to go blow up a car.
I just don't
Why?
like
Because
some of
as
the
a kid,
things.
that sounds like
Where
big
you
explosion.
can walk around with a loaded firearm. You can open carry in some states.
Some schools now.
without a permit. And you can just they've loosened so many regulations in some states, yet they won't really address some of the shootings. They just kind of expect more guns is going to solve the problem for guns being out there. I don't know.
What do you think about the argument of it's ineffective? Like the bad folks are going to end up being able to get the guns anyway. Whether you have, I don't know.
I believe you're gonna get whatever you want to get. You just have to figure out where to get it. So with anything, it's just going to be a more secret black market, but it's going to be expensive. But you'll be able to still afford anything you want. Find the guns.
I think, depending on, I think if you're regulating the ammunition, if you're regulating the guns, they may be out there, but they need servicing, parts, all that kind of stuff. They'll eventually, taper off. So I don't know.
Yeah, there won't be as many out there, but I'm just saying there's always a way. That's how. We're shipping them right now.
But see, I think just the the idea of even sensible, and if you talk about sensible gun control, right? Everybody wants that, except people who are being.
You can go to a 3D
paid
printing
for it.
machine now and do a 3D
Yeah.
printed gun. I mean, there's so many different ways to get around certain. It's technology again, and just what it's the capabilities of doing.
But
it's
you know what?
crazy.
You know what we should do about controlling it? Nothing. Right? Because that's what we're doing right now. And you know what we should keep doing? Because, that's, if you keep, you're trying to solve something, but you keep giving it the same answer over and over and over again, should you expect a different outcome? No. So, I mean, something has to change. And what is that? I mean, that's the question for maybe others a bit more intelligent than us to sort out. But to me, that's the only thing that I just don't understand. It's like that's almost like the definition of insanity.
I mean,
you keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting the same outcome. It's like, what are you doing?
To me, I really, not to go back on the same thing we talked about, but I think there's a lot of mental health issues out there.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that go to a school and shoot up the school,
Yeah.
that's unaddressed mental health issues.
Well,
Yeah.
and then when you hindsight look back, well, there's probably a little bit of a trail, right? You probably saw a little bit of a difference of where those warning signs come to play, whether it's a family member noticing it or a friend notice, or just Facebook, social, all that social posts or platforms that they put stuff out there. Those, you have to look for those warning signs, because we all know that one person, right? We all know, well, that guy's not normal, right? He's just, got to figure that out before it's too late, because we're there's a problem out there.
Yeah, it has to be addressed together. So you've got to have mental, and I think they've tried to do that with most gun control things. I think they're trying to put money in there for mental health, but it's like, I think you have to address it as a whole and not pick out, because that's the problem. Is they'll be like, well, this is a mental health problem. It's not a gun problem. And then some people are like, well, it's a gun problem.
Right.
And you need to, it's got to be an ecosystem.
It really does. Mental health plays a small sliver as well, but I mean, you have all these reckless kids out there with guns that are wheeling and dealing, and instead of like back in the day, well, let's fight, let's just fisticuff each other, right, and let's go for it. They're pulling out guns and they're shooting, and then they're running, and it's obviously it's a huge problem, and I just wish that there's more control somehow.
Bring back knife fights. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, no, and now it's like, well,
Outsiders
don't bring a knife to the gunfight, right? It's like,
I mean, when
who
they
has
used
a
to
bigger gun?
when they used to like snap and walk in sync, those
Cross
were
their legs.
yeah, those were cool times. when gangs had style, and they'd walk and they'd sing and dance.
Be the Socs against
Yeah.
the Greasers.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Those were the days, right?
Yeah.
I think there, just to throw one other thing out there, is I do understand why people want to be able to, own guns. I think there has to be sensible. I think part of what we'll talk about, maybe even in our next topic, is trying to resist tyranny and control. And
Right.
by being able to bear arms, you have a chance to resist tyranny. So I get that, but sensible regulations, sensible hoops that you have to jump through, focus on mental health and identifying, maybe even with AI, identifying, potentially problem folks.
I didn't even think about the resisting tyranny.
You didn't? No.
Well, I mean, that's
But that's
that was
what
the original idea, right?
That's what
Yeah.
That you
the
can
gun
establish
control.
militia.
Yeah.
But I mean, it seems
if you took it to the nth degree and no one could bear arms, well, then you're subject to your government.
And I don't think that's right. It's just there has to be a fine line. And again, I don't think there's any resident, honestly, that needs an AK-47.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, right? Is that going to reduce what's going on out there right now? Probably not, but I have no idea. But it's just too powerful, right? Unless you're out there killing bears or something out,
Oh, I worry about my kids too, because they're pretty desensitized because they're playing all these shooter games. I don't know. I think that has something to do back to the mental health thing. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna, because some of these things, they actually put cameras on themselves and they go shoot up things like they're in
Tipper
a
Gore here.
first person player game.
Yeah. No,
right?
it's very, very realistic. And then all of a sudden, that's the thing. Some kids don't know the difference between what's virtual and what's reality, and they just kind of go out and they go nuts.
I don't think that's really.
It's all part of the gaming. It's all
Jesus
part of the
Christ.
gaming.
I mean, the kids know the difference between a game and shooting up a school. But
True.
You would think
I'm
so.
just saying
You would think
those
so.
folks that are on the edge of mental issues have a harder time processing if like one of my kids plays first person shooting games a lot. It's like he's mentally
We're watching
stable.
him.
I don't worry about him.
Yeah.
But I think if you're on the edge of that, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just to end up with the mental health piece is something that needs to be, addressed completely, right? And it clearly has implications related to problems that we're having with guns. But at the same time, it's not the only thing, so that needs to be sorted kind of itself.
Yeah.
While you're still, dealing with, the problem with the guns, and honestly, there's probably even a third component too, which is, dealing a little bit with how kids are being brought up, whether it be a situation because they're
Parenting,
being
that kind of thing.
desensitized or their environments that they're in, the role models that they have that they're looking up to, that maybe are the ones that are kind of doing these things on their own, and well, that's a kind of self-perpetuating kind of a nightmare. So,
But then you're picking and choosing who can, who can't. That's
no.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that is something that shouldn't be overlooked as part of this too. That's all. I'm not saying pick or choose. I'm just saying don't forget about that, because if you do, that's maybe part of this component, because it's not a simple one thing, finalize, fix everything, take all your guns, everything's good. No, it won't be. No, it won't be. There's still going to be issues. Still going to be mental health issues. There's still going to be these other issues about having poor role models and not being able to express themselves correctly and say, we're going to do it with anger instead of with, and now instead of having just fists only or knives,
Snapping.
Now they got
snapping and dancing. You forgot about
and
that.
snapping and dancing. Now they got an AK-47, David.
The old breakdance fights, right?
Oh, yeah.
We should bring that back.
See,
When
Yeah,
The
you-
the
video
battles.
beat it would have
You know,
ended very
right.
differently
Yeah, the
with
battles.
guns.
it'd be safer.
Let's end with that. Yes, bring back the dance-offs.
Yo
as a way
mama
to solve your
battles.
problems.
Yes.
So,
We can fix it all by dancing.
You want to wrap it up?
Again, hey, we appreciate you listening and cut.
Back after this.
Welcome back to Degens on the Block. We are David, Todd, Manny, and Glenn, and we are going to be talking about CBDC.
CBDCs.
Our next topic. So we've got 7 minutes on the clock.
Central bank
we are-
digital currencies.
Yes, it's not CBD. It's CBDC.
Although that's a topic for another show.
I think it is.
So this is the
You wanna hit the timer?
centralized coin that's being talked about, and let's talk about some of the pluses and minuses to it. I think there's a race right now, or at least an investigation to race. I don't think there's been anything put in place, but they're looking to do a centralized coin and I think this is on right now. It's on the back end, right? So it's kind of like XRP, where it's banks use it.
So CBDCs are essentially going to be digital currency of a particular country. So,
But it's not for like, if I'm paying you, I wouldn't use.
No, CBDCs would be that.
Okay, because I think
So
the
you can have
administration is talking about using it on the back end.
You can have a CBDC that's more of a wholesale coin.
Yeah.
The whole argument with something like XLM or XRP is that it's the liquidity token to move value back and forth on the back end.
Right.
And CBDCs are meant to be essentially like a digital dollar that you and I would interact with. The problem with them is they're programmable, and
Which
they
means
can be
you can set parameters for
set
it.
parameters
right?
for it.
You can
You can
track
limit-
it.
But
You can
that's-
set parameters.
Some of the pros, though, right? It's going to be faster. It's cheaper. It's more secure. And so in that respect, I mean, a lot of things are going to change in terms of transaction fees and middlemen. And so there's a lot of pros to that.
Yeah.
So are we talking about here that this would be something that is it backed by an actual physical same amount for that currency? So,
Well, I think that's the question. Is it going to be backed by, like, say, a commodity or gold or silver, or is it going to be
or
very
a
much
dollar?
like our
Central banks.
very much like our current fiat currency that's not backed by anything, and it's backed by trust in that currency, and the Federal Reserve can print as much of it as they want for fiat. So, yeah.
Because my point of that is that if it is backed by something that's physical, that might minimize the chance of some of the other problems that we've seen with some of the recently with some of the other coins that were supposed to be these coins that you're attached to because they're attached to something physical, a tether type of a coin, and so that there could be some value in something like that if you could be attached to it with your project. So you can stay away from being centralized from them by being backed up by it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's a positive. But on the negative side,
Well, it's just gonna disrupt
I think there's,
traditional banking as it
the-
is and as
yeah,
we know it.
There's a transparency which is good in some respects, bad in others, right? So that I think that's what people
Privacy
worry about.
concerns and that kind of thing.
So for banking, it's good because you know where everything is. There's nothing, there's no hiccups or issues on the back end or wherever. But on the consumer side, that's where I think the
There's a
big concern
problem.
is.
Yeah, there's privacy
So-
concerns and everything else.
Because somebody can track it. Now, you can say we were talking. It's like you can be tracked anyway.
You
know?
are being tracked.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, we essentially use digital money right
Yeah.
now. I mean, you don't.
Yes.
There's not a
People aren't
boatload
using
of
a lot of
cash,
cash,
out there. Yeah.
I mean, I think I've had the same 20 in my wallet for 4 months.
Right.
Because you're
I
like,
got 10 for it.
yeah, you just kind of tap. You're tapping your phone, you're tapping your card, you're doing
Yeah.
whatever. Those are all tracked anyway.
Yep.
But
Yep.
people. I think the concern
Change, though.
is
Change.
can it be written so that you have cash? If you're not overseeing the whole thing, can the government say, okay, you know what, you can only use
X, Y, Z,
cash
yeah.
for this,
Right.
or are they going to be somehow, you're
Regulating.
not, you can't go and buy a gun with this because it's not good for that.
Right.
You can't, I don't know.
I
what
think there
else.
would be a lot of problems with the government trying to regulate where and when you can spend your money. I think that in terms of future, right, people are looking for the next best thing. And is the dollar it right now, or is it the cryptocurrency?
Yeah.
And I think everyone's trying to evolve. I think there's a lot of uncertainties still
Yeah.
that they have to work out. But at the end of the day, we got to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I think it's all about control. I mean, if you think about the truckers' strike in Canada, they essentially just
Yep.
shut down all their funds. And with CBDCs, it's like, okay, screw you, you're off,
Yeah.
done. You didn't. We perceive that you didn't pay enough in taxes. We'll just take that money right from your account.
Right.
These kinds of control mechanisms and misuse of that just is opened up by CBDCs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I mean, but they can still do that from your account right now.
Yeah.
If they got the
But you
right
could-
warrant and stuff.
Yeah,
they
but
could
if the
still get
cash
that.
was no longer available,
Right.
and all you had was the CBDCs, you would have no resources. So you would need some sort of commodity. That's why people are buying gold and silver. So you have some sort of thing. If fiat money was was worthless, and all you had was CBDCs, well, then you're out of luck. So
I mean, that's why people are going to cryptocurrencies when the banks were failing because there's issues there. So they're decentralizing their money so nobody can get a hold of it. Nobody can track
Or
it.
track it. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why part of the reason why the government created the CBDC. So then it's like, well, this is our way to try to track you.
There'll be less laundering of money. There's going to be more.
That's their concern,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
But internationally, the dollar has traditionally been the base
power.
right? So I think as things are moving digital, that's one of the things that they're trying to do is maintain that.
Maintain the dollar supremacy kind of thing.
Or the U.S.
Well, all these
coin.
BRICS countries are de-dollarizing now.
Yeah.
They're buying gold and getting rid of the dollar as a base currency. The whole idea back in, I don't know if it was 74 or whatever, the deal with OPEC was that OPEC would only sell oil in dollars, and that is what drove the petrodollar. And that's what we have had up until now.
Yeah.
And now the biggest news that I think went under the radar is that both China and Russia are accepting something other than the U.S. dollar for their oil.
Right.
And so is
I
Saudi
think
Arabia.
Russia is requiring, aren't they requiring the
Yeah.
ruble now? Or
That's their only way to get anything,
right.
essentially, because they're cut out of the markets.
Yeah.
So, and the SWIFT system especially. So,
Well, yes. I just think we need to mind our P's and Q's and figure out exactly how to stabilize this uncertainty that we live in right now because, think about where we were 10 years ago and where we are now. It's absolutely
That's the thing
incredibly
that's
changed.
crazy is everything's moving so fast right now.
Yeah.
Like
It's incredible.
you're sitting here having like a little conversation and it's already, gone leaps and bounds from where we understand it
From
is
when we
today.
started this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
A
I mean,
minute
it's
ago.
moving so quick.
Yeah.
So with all the technology, it's been insane.
I think the thing that scares me the most about CBDCs is the control, the censorship, and the ability to to cause an enormous burden on an individual if some other centralized power says so. It's not decentralized like blockchain and buying Bitcoin and Ethereum and that kind of thing. It is centralized power. And the Augustine from the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, look it up. Look up the clip. And he said something to the effect that they are really excited about the CBDC because it gives them absolute control of that currency
Yeah.
in all different aspects. So.
Mind blowing.
Yeah.
It's okay to be scared. It's okay to have questions, but just don't bury your head in the sand because there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I think for anybody watching, it would be just the thing. We're bringing up topics that are important. Go out and research it.
100%.
Use this
Do
as
your
a
own research.
starting point.
100%.
We're not gonna solve it necessarily here, but we're gonna bring up these topics and hope that you'll go back and
this
research it
one
for
will come up
yourself.
again because
Yeah.
there'll be more news on this.
I think one thing
It's evolving.
One thing that could be positive is that there's a lot of folks out there, really struggling now, and you could see where this would include a lot more folks. If you just had to sign up on a FedNow account, which is starting in July, and the Fed said, we are just going to drop you $1,500 worth of CBDC that you can use as long as you have a phone and you sign up on the account. You've got it. Here's your free money.
Yeah, 'cause
Universal.
no matter how poor you are, you have a smartphone.
You usually do, right?
Oh, 100%.
So-
Third world countries.
Yeah.
Yep,
So,
that's a good point.
The
so
beggars.
who's going to not accept that $1,500 a month as like universal basic income to use? Well, now you've got
Now you're in the system.
mass of folks using CBDCs, and that's, I think, how they introduce it is that they're going to give away free money in the
Launch.
idea of public good.
Like your dealer. Like
Public
a dealer.
good.
You give it away in the beginning and then
Yeah.
you really pay
Right,
for it
right,
later.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's
You're a dealer.
like that's true. And I didn't mean your dealer.
Yeah. No.
Because we've never met him.
You have to call a special number.
Yeah.
But I think the argument also would be like
Special
it's
phone.
like you were saying that it'll reduce kind of these money laundering
Yeah, yeah.
and illicit activities. But the reality is that the CBDCs are going to be for the masses, but there's going to be another currency behind which the most powerful people will be using.
Yeah.
That's my feeling.
Yeah,
So,
because I think, the nefarious ones are going to want to hide their stuff.
We're talking about
know.
the Illuminati right now.
Yeah.
maybe so.
Spacemen.
Well, that was a good topic, Glenn. So
Yeah, I think
it's one we're going
we definitely want
have
to
come
talk
back
about
to.
that again. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
All right. Thanks for watching Degens on the Block.